Hey guys, this is take two of this video. I started recording the video and then about halfway in I realized, oh wait, I'm on the wrong microphone. And so I had no idea how the audio was going to come out. I didn't know how it was going to sound, and so I stopped the recording and now I'm trying again. I did listen to the recording just out of curiosity, and it turns out the audio isn't that bad, so I could have used it, but by that point I'd already stopped and it was too late. So we're going to try this again. This is going to be take two. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm actually going to be answering one of the comments I got on a previous video about project billing. One of the comments asked, hey, how do you handle complex billing on projects where you have multiple different types of projects, different types of billing to a project? There are three different ways most people bill projects. There could be more than that, it could be four or five. It could be a combination of some of these theories, but most of it are these one of these three in some way, shape, or form. There you go. One of the ways is a prepaid block. Basically, very simple. You quit out a project, 10-hour project. You spend 15 hours on it. Your 10 hours is billed up front, and you already got that labor paid, and the 5 hours is paid at the end. Overtime is billed on that project. Another way you could do this is a fixed fee, where you estimate the project is 10 hours, you bill 10 hours, and you either do it in 10 hours or less and you make money, or you do it in over 10 hours and you don't make money on that project. Another way to do this is just straight up time materials. Essentially, it's just time billed. You quote what it's going to be or what it may look like. You don't invoice the labor until the very end, and you invoice for actual time that's spent. So those are the three different types of billing that can occur to a project. And we're going to use the billing plans to formulate and create this complex billing decision essentially in Halo to determine how and when a product is going to get billed. So we already started building this out. Right now I'm sharing my screen on the demo that I had created. This is the demo account, the trial of Halo that we used for the Azure Single Sign-On. It's going to be the same exact environment. There hasn't been many changes to it other than the changes that I made in the last attempt of making this video. So we'll go through and cover what those look like right now. And then we'll pick up from where we left off. Okay, so very quickly, under tickets categorization, we have the ability to use up to 4 different categories. So we've got category 1, 2, 3, and 4. Categories 1 and 2 are used out of the box, and we're going to ignore them for right now. That's the category for the ticket in general. That's the issue type. And then here's the resolution category, which is really more on how the issue was resolved and less on the type of issue that it was when it got resolved, right? So that name's a little bit of a misnomer. 3 and 4 are not actively in use. I've renamed 4 to billing type. And then inside there, we have the help desk covered and not covered. This will allow us to create billable tickets and help desk versus non-billable tickets and help desk, because everyone can have that situation where you have a help desk ticket and you're doing some work that's not part of your normal services. And so you want to mark that time as billable in some way, shape, or form. This is one of the ways to do it. Help desk is one level that we're using, and the next is projects. And inside of projects, we got the 3 different things that we're talking about. We got the fixed fee, which is the flat rate paid up front and then don't charge for anything else. We've got the prepaid block where you charge for the block up front and then you bill for any time over. And then we've got the time billed, which is the straight time materials that we're going to be using inside of projects for those types of projects. So we've got our categories created. The next thing that we did is we added those categories to the ticket type. So if we look at it, the incident ticket type, and we go to the allowed values, we can see that we've limited the allowed values to just help desk. And the way we did this was we added a new one. We did a partial match, and we just typed in part of the name of the parent, help desk or projects in there. Okay. And if we go look at the service request, we did the same thing there as well. The other thing that we did was we went into the field list and we added the billing type field into both the service request and the incident, I believe. This is somewhere around here is when we got cut off. So yeah, we got a billing type in here. We're going to edit this and make sure that it's not visible to the end user. Perfect. And next, we want to go into the projects themselves and mess with that. So we'll go to project. And inside the project, we'll come in here and we'll add the field list of project type. Time billable billing type. There we go. And then we'll put that up somewhere. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to put it up somewhere up front. And then under your allowed values, we're going to change the billing type to be only allow where projects is in the name. So we'll do partial match projects. save. Okay. And then we can do the same thing for tasks as well if we want to. So we can go to tasks and edit this, allowed values. This is going to basically depend on whether or not you want to, like how deep you want to drill down into the specifics of this. Basically, sorry, we want to do partial match projects and then I'll talk. Okay, that did not work. Partial match projects. There we go. Billing in projects rolls up into the parent project ticket, which is the parent ticket, which is the project. And so normally the flow, if you've watched my sales and my opportunity to sales to invoice video, the flow is you have an opportunity, you create a sales order or quote, you then create a sales order, and then from the sales order you create a project. And so the parent ticket of the project is the opportunity that created that sales order. And so you have like almost a grandchild. If you go all the way down to the project task, you've got 3 levels down. In this case, all the billing will roll up into the project ticket, the parent project ticket, but not into the opportunity. And so you don't have to specify the time mechanism on the task level. It all rolls up into the project level, I think. Anyways, I could be wrong. But we can actually try it out and find out. We can find out now on this video. One of the other things that we do have to do that I did on the previous attempt was we modify the project hierarchy. So remember how I said the billing rolls up from the tasks to the project level? The way this works and the way it doesn't roll up into the opportunity is because of a recent change Halo made due to a bug where it was rolling time up into the opportunity that allowed you to specify what part of the project hierarchy a ticket type was. And so a ticket type projects, you want to be marked as a projects in the project hierarchy. And then any task like ticket types you want to set under the task level. So that way they roll up correctly into the parent ticket and they know which one's which. So here we've got project task set under the project task. And then under the projects ticket type, we want to make sure that we would have the project hierarchy set to projects. Now, what happens if it's not? So by default, they're both set to project tasks. And you'll see this error message I'm going to show you. And I'm just showing it to you so that you can get familiar with it. This error message may pop up. To invoice projects, there must be at least one project ticket type with a project hierarchy set to project. This can be set on the project ticket type. So this is an error message. It's pretty self-explanatory. The reason why it happens is because billing rolls up into those project tickets. And so we need to click OK, go back to our configuration, our ticket type project. We're going to move our project hierarchy back into projects where I had it before. Save that, and now this error message goes away. Okay? Great. So then the next thing that we want to do is we want to build out our billing rules inside of our billing plan. So we did that through a template, and then we just applied the template to the client. So I have an all-you-can-eat template here, and these are the rules that I had created. All work being done on a ticket where the help desk is set to covered is going to be contract. All work that's projects is set to pay-as-you-go, prepay, don't invoice, and then you can treat unmatched as pay-as-you-go, or you can mark it as don't invoice, and you can add additional rules for help desk remote support where the billing type is not covered, and then mark that as pay-as-you-go. And then we can add in another one for on-site support where billing type is not covered and mark that pay-as-you-go. So that way we build out all our plan of all of our billing rules and how we're utilizing the billing type category, which we did not have before. Okay. Normally, I would say you want to be careful about the order of the rules because the order of the rules is how they will get applied. And once it matches a rule, it doesn't look at further rules. In this case, we don't really have anything overlapping because we're splitting it out. Remote support not covered. Doesn't match with any other rule over here. We've got remote support covered. You don't have anything that's just remote support, so you're not really worried about overlapping in this case. But if you're OCD, you want to reorder it, then you can always do that. Of course, delete and recreate the rules. There is a sequence column here, but last I tried it, it didn't work correctly because the sequence was actually tracking sequence across all billing plans and not just the one that you were in. So with that being said, we've got our billing type set up. We've got our ticket type. Let's go back. We need to double check that we added the field into the ticket type for the projects. I don't know if we did that or not. Because at this point, I don't remember which video version I'm on and whether or not we added in. Okay, we added into the project. Did we add it into the project task? We did not. Let's do that here as well, just for fun. Okay, because we don't know where it's going to take effect, and so we're going to try it on all of them. We did limit our values here, right? Category 4, yes, set to projects, great. All right, so the only thing left for us to do is figure out when exactly is the setting being set. Are we doing it at the time of creation? If you notice, we added the field. We made sure that it was visible at the time of creating the ticket, so we can do it there. But can we also do it maybe at the time of closing the ticket? Maybe something happened, and we want to make sure that we can set that value at the time when we're done. So let's go look for. We've got like close. Nope. We got resolve ticket. We can come back here and edit this field list. We're just going to add in the billing type at that point. Okay, and then let's go look at, is there any other like create new project, but there's no like close project, right? So we don't really have to worry about complete appointment, complete activity, task completed, complete task. What does that do? Let's go to this field list. Let's add it in here for fun. Billing type as one of the fields available. Okay. Now, again, this is a completely brand new sandbox, right? Everything here is mostly untouched. And so I don't really know exactly what the workflow is going to be used or how this is going to play out. We're trying it all out from scratch, and we're gonna see how it plays through. So in this case, we've got our configuration mostly in play. We need to make sure we've applied a billing template to a client, which I've already done that. So if you look at Terry's Chocolates as the client, notice we're experiencing that bug. I mentioned it on a previous video where if you have multiple tabs, multiple Halo tabs open inside of an area, and you go back to that area after clicking through some places, it may not load that first tab properly. Only the latest tab will load. And so what we can do is we can just close out this tab and just refresh the page. And then whatever area you were in will load, including that last tab. Only the last tab loads. There's some sort of bug there. So what we'll do now is we'll look at billing and just make sure that we've applied the billing plan combination template, all you can eat, which it looks like it is here, although it doesn't have all of our latest changes. So what we'll do is we can go back to our template real quick. And this is how you're supposed to use the billing templates. Like if you have clients assigned to the template and you've made a change to a template, you can update the clients from this button up here, and it'll tell you, hey, there's X number of clients to update. Yes, we want to go update that client. And if we go back and look at that client billing and scroll down to billing plan combinations, we now see all of our latest changes have been added into this client. All right, so we are good to start testing. Let's go find some tickets. We've got laptop on boot, new project tasks. Great. Let's go see what's inside this training ticket. All right, so we've got no time entered really, just the time for creating the task, which is a task of a project, new customer onboarding project. We're going to open that up. And here we can see a budget. We can see some project tasks. We've got 2 tasks and 2 different milestones. Let me just change this view real quick. Doesn't look like, oh, Kanban view is up here. Here. All right, we've got 2 tasks. One's new, one's in progress. We've got the general progress of the project itself, and then we've got, of course, the details of the project that are over here. So if we go down here, notice our category 4 is not set. We're going to go ahead and see what options we can choose here. Looks like we are limited to just the projects category. So test number 1 was successful. We can go into ticket type projects, and we can see that it's only showing me the projects type of billing. And if we go open a task, we should see the same kind of thing that we saw before. So we'll go to this task, and we'll go to category 4. And sure enough, all we see is just the projects. And so we are good there. All right, let's take a look at whether or not let's just do some tests before we go into the help desk side of things. Let me just add some time in here. So we'll do private note, we'll do charge rate of OnSite Support, and we'll add this status to in progress, and we'll throw 2 hours onto this time entry. Okay, notice we're on OnSite Support 2 hours, but if you take a look, we're not actually billing. It's not ready for invoicing. It's not, it is marked as billable, but the billing plan is NA. And so we can see that it's charged with OnSite Support, NA. So what exactly happened here? And I think it's going to be because of the fact that we don't have a billing type applied here. And so let's go ahead and mark this as a time build. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll come here. Notice up here there will be a circling thing as time gets changed, as ticket settings get changed. And so at this point, that's finished. We'll come here and we'll just recalculate the time entry. And still nothing. So let's do this. Remember we mentioned time rolls up to the main project. Let's go to the main project and change the project setting here under the category. Category 4, we called it right here. Let's update this to be project time build. And now let's go, notice the circling. Circling has stopped. So now this setting has been set. Let's come here and let's go update this, recalculate billing one more time. And let's see if we have a different billing plan at this point. So we're still not indicating that it's billable. I guess the question is, what else could be different? We are on a ticket type of project task. Let's go look to see what that ITIL is here. If we're looking at the ticket types, so remember the rule that I created was focusing on the specific ITIL type of project. Let's go look at project tasks. ITIL ticket type is projects, and ITIL type of project is also projects. And so this really should have been marked billable at this point. So the question is, why didn't it work? Let's refresh the page. Make sure that our category 4 stuck. Looks like it did. Let's try this from the parent level. So let's go add a time entry here and see what happens. We'll add private note. We'll set this to OnSite Support. We'll add 2 hours here, make this in progress and save. We're not going to add it to the child tickets. And it's still not showing billable. Well, let's go take a look at the billing plan, which is the only thing left that we have here. That could potentially be the issue. So let's change this to the client. We're looking at Terry's Chocolates. We go to billing plan. Let's see. Aha, the category 4 was previously called pay as you go. We actually renamed some of these. And so therefore it's not actually met, which is interesting because that tells you that the categories are actually by the string and not by like an identifier of any kind. And so this will be time build where it'll be pay as you go. Let's update all these. I'm actually going to do it on the template level because this is actually not, this is on the client override. So we're going to come here, we'll edit this. Let's change the projects pay as you go to be billing plan, sorry, category 4 time build, save. And then we'll update the partially paid to be category 4 of prepaid block over time build. And then we'll update the flat fixed to be fixed fee, don't invoice. Okay, the rest of the categories have not changed. We'll go update the clients. And now let's go try this again. So that's interesting. The categories that are listed are done by string and don't have any kind of name. or any kind of identifier linking them. So if you rename it, then that breaks your billing plans. Good to know. Lessons learned. Here we can see the billing plan is marked pay as you go. And so we can also see that the billed hours is 2. And so that does work now. The question is, we still haven't decided whether or not this is something that's happening on the parent level or on the task level. If we come to this time entry, we notice the 2 hours, we recalculate billing, and we are now pay as you go as well. So now we should have a total of 4 hours ready to invoice. The only other thing that we would have to see, notice ready for invoicing is set to no. We're going to go into our settings. A lot of people do progress billing on projects. In order to make that work, you need to go to the billing section, general settings. And under the charge rate settings, you want to process actions on open tickets. Once you process actions on open tickets, we'll come here and just recalculate the time one more time. Notice right now, ready for invoicing is set to no. If I hit that recalculate button, it should switch to yes, and now it'll be in the ready for invoicing screen. So if you have time and you're not sure why it's not showing up at the invoicing area, you can just go look at the time tracking tab of that time, and it'll tell you whether or not it should be in that ready for invoicing area, if it's already been invoiced, and what else is going on. Let's go ahead and recalculate this billing, and now we can see it's ready for invoicing. So now we should have a total of 4 hours in the invoicing area. Let's go look at our invoices and go to our project. We should have one project total of 4 hours inside the new customer onboarding project. And that's that. So now let's go ahead and actually work through our tests. So we're going to take this and we're going to mark this category from projects time billed to fixed fee, which means that it was already paid for upfront and it's not going to be invoiced separately. And now that we've done that, notice that the build time has actually disappeared. Right now it's time taken, 2 hours. Let's go put that back to time billed. And now we're back to billing 2 hours. So it looks like the category 4 is set on the task level. Let's go try it on the parent override and see what happens. We're actually going to clear out this category completely. Remove it. And let's see if we can, I don't know, we may not be able to clear it out and save that clearing. All right, once it's been set, I don't know if it lets you change it or not. I don't think it's doing anything. Let's refresh. Oh, category 4 is not set. Great. So let's come here. Let's recalculate billing. Let's just make sure and see what happens now on this time entry. It does show billable ready for invoicing, and it does show the billing plan as an A. So here's an interesting thing. Because the billing plan is set to unmatched, don't invoice, what it's actually going to do is it's going to do nothing. It doesn't actually change the time from what it currently is set to. So if you have like a default, imagine there's a default state. That default state is don't bill. And so what you're telling it when you do unmatch is to not change the default state. What that means, however, is that if you do have a different default state, so for example, you were previously matched to a billing rate, and now you're matching to a don't invoice rate, or you're matching to not matched, what happens is that not matched won't actually change your billing time. So even if we were to come here and, for example, update this parent level to be something else. Let's just do fixed fee, right? And so this will update that. That circle will disappear eventually. And what will happen is under the progress tab, we should be able to see that the time has been removed. It's no longer billable. It's just time taken. If we look at the invoice, we'll probably see 2 hours because the original time entry here in this task is setting to category 4 of none, means that it was never like reset to anything other than what it was before, which was previously billable. Okay. So just something to keep in mind when you're building out your billing plans, that treat unmatched as means don't change it. If it doesn't match, it's not changing it. It's just going to leave it alone to whatever it is in its default state. So if you really want to make it not don't invoice, then you probably want to have a rule that's actually applying that or something like that. Just something if you run into, you know what that is. In this case, from our testing, it looks like that our budget types need to, our category 4 needs to go, our billing type needs to go on the task level and not necessarily on the project level, unless you're putting time in both the project and the project task, in which case it should be on both. This does allow for a greater level of control within the projects. It also can get annoying because in some cases you're going to be like, well, I want to have certain tasks that are prepaid and certain tasks that are not prepaid, certain tasks that have already been billed for, and certain tasks that we need to bill for separately as part of the same project. And so you can do that on a task level. On the other hand, you can be like, well, I'm setting it once on the project level. I don't want to have to set it everywhere else as well. And so there are ways you can make that work. You can do ticket rules, you can do ticket templates, and you can map the ticket template to a type of project. So that way, when you're on your sales order and you have a template of a flat fixed fee project, you just map that to a template where everything, tasks and child are projects and tasks are just set to a default of a fixed fee. And you can do that same thing for all the other types as well. Okay, so let's look at what a situation will look like when you're doing the complex part of this, right? So the contract is easy, the help desk covered, not covered, that makes sense. We just showcased how to do billing on time for a project on an invoice, which also makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. The only part that's not straightforward is what happens when I've sold a project, I've charged for 10 hours up front, my client's paid for 10 hours, and I need to bill overtime. So this is the last part that we'll go through. We're going to go over and take a look at our prepay settings right here under billing. And there's a checkbox there that says something like use pay as you go when prepay runs out. Okay, so we'll go ahead and mark that off. Okay, and in this case, we're not going to use this checkbox, but there are other things that you can turn on. We'll turn this on. There are things you may want to look at and change or adjust in here. This is just a demo, and so I'm not really talking about all the various different settings and what they do, but these can be adjusted for what it is that you want in your environment. In this case, I'm not turning this on because I'm just testing and I'm not really going to invoice or pay the invoice before it gets calculated on the amount. So let's go through and look at our opportunities. Let's see. Terry's Chocolate doesn't have an open opportunity, it looks like, potentially. So we're just going to make a new one. And we'll do this as we'll do a quick quote. Why not? Existing client, Terry's Chocolates, main user. Let's do new firewall setup with content filtering. All right, so this is something that would, generally speaking, could take, let's say, 3 hours, rebuild a firewall and install it. So that'll be a 3-hour project. But the content filtering could be something that is way more time, depending on the number of users and how complex you want to get and which sites you need to allow and stuff like that. So this is going to be opportunity to note. We're just going to put in, content filtering, unknown number of hours, and then firewall setup will be 3 hours, estimate total of 5 hours with additional time billable. So that's what we're going to basically quote out at this point. Let's go ahead and raise that quote. And that quote will be new firewall install. And let's go ahead and add our items to it. So I have no idea what items we have in here. So it doesn't look like we have a firewall or anything like that. We've got a switch. So we're going to pretend the switch is a firewall. We'll add one of them. And then we want to, let's rename it. We'll do firewall with 1-year license, let's say. Save that. Let's add another item. And this time we're looking for labor. There was installation, looked like. Ta-da. So we'll go ahead and set this to like 195 an hour. Let's do quantity of 5, we mentioned, right? And so installation, prepaid block. 5 hours, 195 an hour. Let's go ahead and save that. And let's go and save. Let's add some notes. Okay, basically the same notes that we added in here, just so we can see how it looks on the template. I'm getting a little bit off track. I don't really care about the quote or the PDF side. I just care about getting to the point where we have a project that we can bill for. But let's go and why not go all out at this point? So we're going to say 3 hours for the firewall install, 2 hours for web filter setup, additional time for web filter will be billed. And let's go ahead and save that. Okay, so let's go and send this over. It's going to generate a PDF. PDF will get attached to the quote once it gets generated, and then we'll see the email form here. So we can now launch this, open link in new tab. And now I'm the customer logging into my self-service portal to review this quote, which will show me the new firewall, including the notes, 3 hours for the firewall install, 2 hours for the web filter setup, and I'm going to go ahead and approve this quote so we can get it accepted. And let's just do a signature and submit that. We can go ahead and discard this at this point. We don't need that email to actually go out. And what we should see is once it's been approved, this quote should indicate as such. Let's go ahead and refresh that. We'll get the thumbs up marked as approved, and we now have the ability to create a sales order, which I'm going to go ahead and do. The sales order indicates that it's a request to place the order of that quote. So we're going to go look at our sales order and see that we have a firewall here. We've got a labor here, installation prepaid block, and we're charging for a total of $10.55, which is the $80 plus $195 times 5. That'll give us our total that we're going to invoice for. So let's go ahead and create that invoice. One of the things that we'll do before we do that, let me just open up this installation. And let's go ahead and set this to, we've got the budget type. We're set a generic, let's see, project, standard project template. Standard project as a template. Save that. Okay. So now if I refresh this, we should have a create project. Add budget to project, create project, add to project, and create child. So we got different options that we can do to add existing line items to the various different child tasks and stuff like that of a project. Okay, so in this case, we're going to go ahead and create that invoice. All right, we're going to invoice the entire order. So this goes back into, let's just pause for a second. If we're talking about a fixed fee project and you're only billing that project over time, you can notice you have the ability to invoice over a period of various different options. You can invoice just a single line item, so you can not invoice the labor at all. You can invoice a percentage of the selected lines. You can invoice a percentage of the entire order, right? And so you can invoice in stages, essentially. You can charge the full flat firewall, and then you can go ahead and invoice a percentage of the labor. You can invoice each line with a different percentage quantity. And you can just choose the lines you want to invoice, right? So this will allow you to keep that sales order open prior to it being fully invoiced, and then you just go back and check in over a period of time, 3 months down the line, or something like that, or 50% through the project, you go ahead and invoice another percentage of the sales order, and you just keep doing that until you fully build that sales order. So this is one of the ways that you can do that fixed fee project rate that you're billing over time or progressively instead of just all at once. In this case, I'm focusing on the prepaid block of hours and then billing the overtime. So we're going to go ahead and invoice the entire order. And now we'll have an invoice ready to be paid. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the client. I'm going to say, we know we got 5 hours of prepaid work here. So I'm going to open that client directly. And we're going to add 5 hours to the prepay. Okay. So it's interesting because normally this is a clickable field. In this case, I don't know why it's not. So we're just going to go back to the quote, well, to the opportunity and pull up the client from there. And then we'll go to the Prepay tab. And we're just going to add in, looks like they already have our total of prepay hours. We're going to just delete that and add a new one, 5 hours. And the date is today. And the invoice date is today. And we have the invoice number from that as invoice number 6. All right, so we'll go ahead and specify invoice 6. And there's no expiration. And go ahead and save that. And now we've got a total prepaid 5 hours, starting today, amount is already invoiced, and we are good to go ahead and create that project. Here's the invoice. We can see the time was invoiced. let's go. Looks like our project was created. Let's go ahead and open that project up. And here's where we can go and take a look at our billing type, right, which you're able to set through the template itself. In this case, we're going to say this billing type is prepaid block, overtime billed, and we're going to go and create our task as well. And our task, we're going to have our budget type as well, sorry, our billing type as well, set to prepaid block overtime billed, which you can then also set by default in the templates when you're applying templates. So here we'll do setup content filter or web filtering. And it doesn't look like we don't have any budgets or anything like that added to this in this case. Let's go ahead and submit. And let's go take a look at what we have here. We'll create another task and we'll do the same exact prepaid block. And this will be install firewall. Okay. Now, remember I mentioned, like, I kind of broke out this project. I'm like, well, we know it's 2 hours to install a firewall and we 3 hours to install a firewall. And we know we're going to give 2 hours for the web filter setup, but we may go over. So you can literally take that breakdown if you have it and actually put each project task onto a different type of billing type, right? So you can say your task to install a firewall, that's capped. We know that's a 2 hour thing. And so we're going to mark that as don't invoice or prepaid or whatever, the fixed fee as part of the project. And then the web filtering, we know, we don't know what that time is, right? So you can literally just invoice for that 3 hours to install the firewall and say your web filter is going to be extra. Part of the same project, 2 different tasks. One task would be to do set to fixed fee, and the other task would be set to time billed. And so that way, anytime you put in automatically goes into pay as you go, and the time you put into the firewall setup would be included in that fixed fee. Again, having the ability to have that additional category on a task level allows you to break this out into various different ways. One of my favorite things about Halo is that there's so many different ways that you can do the exact same thing and get the outcome. It's just figuring out which one works best for you so that it fits a natural workflow that you guys don't have to struggle to think about, right? One of the discussions I was having in one of the MSPs I was working with was like, what is your process? Like, how do you know when something happens? And if the answer is, well, it depends, and it's not even like when you're first figuring it out. It's like when the technician is doing work and they're pressing a button, right? What is supposed to happen when that button gets pressed? And if the answer is it depends, it's probably too complicated for the technician. Like if they have to think about what needs to happen when they're putting in entries on that action, it's probably already at a point where it's too complicated. The whole idea of Halo is it allows you to build out a workflow into your system, and so that the entire process becomes intuitive and that it minimizes the amount of training that's required, right? Yes, people like to know how things work, but they shouldn't have to in order to be able to do that work. They should be able to open up the ticket and go, cool, email user, that's what I need to do. Hit that button, email the user. Record time, add notes, or whatever it is that is being done on that project. It should be almost as intuitive as possible so as to limit the amount of thought process and friction and overhead that goes into them actually doing work, right? So pausing off of that rant for a moment, I just went down a side path. Let's look at our 2 projects tasks we have here. We got install firewall. Let's go ahead and open that up, and we're going to record our time for installing that firewall. In this case, we'll do private note. We did this work on site. We did 2 hours. Let's say we did 3 hours, and we are going to close this task as firewall installed, and save that. Okay, so notice that we have time taken 3 hours, and our time tracking is indicating that we are on a billing plan of prepay. And if we look at our client and we refresh the page, let's see what we have. It looks like we've got 2 hours remaining. We've got 3 hours used, 2 hours remaining. So that's pretty good. Firewall is installed. Notice we're not billing for any time. We use that prepay. Let's go ahead and close this task, and let's go look at our other task here. Set up website filter. Let's go ahead and add a note. In this case, let's do private note, and we'll do on-site support. We'll do this as, we'll do this as remote support. Wrong dropdown. We'll mark this as in progress, and we'll put down 4 hours on the time taken, right? And so started configuring AD integration, mapping groups to policies, and allowed websites per group, and save that. And what we'll end up seeing is we'll actually have some of that time would be billed, right? And so if we look over here, if you edit action, we can see that time taken, prepay and pay as you go. Build hours is 2 hours, prepay hours is 2 hours, charge rate is remote support. And if we go back and look at the client, we should see that we are at 0 hours here. All 5 hours have been used. And if we go look at our invoice, one of these pages is our ready for invoicing screen. So let's just, I don't know which one it is. We'll just go here and look at our project. We should now see a second project. Again, we've got 2 hours for a standard project of our firewall being built. It's pretty simple. There are other ways that you can do this again. One of the things people like to say is like, well, how do I indicate the amount of time that's been billed or prepaid back on that invoice? You can do a report, attach it to the invoice as a PDF report. Alternatively, you can do a project per contract per project. So you can turn that labor into is a contract item and have it spit out contracts for each project that you sell. So over here, you can do a contract, and we can do a new contract where contract reference would be like project, and then the ID, and then the name of the ticket for the project ID, which in this case is 2335, 2334, right? So we can do 2334, and then we would set this to be prepay. This I'm doing just because I'm referencing the ticket that this contract is related to, specifically the project is related to, because that allows us to do additional automation later on. I always like to build out through what would normally be arbitrary, unrelated areas, a relation to why and what we're doing, because that way, from an automation standpoint, we can go back and say, here's all the projects. We can go find every contract related to that project based off of the name of the project of the contract relating to the ticket ID of the project. So here we'll do prepay, start date, and then we'll go ahead and save that. And then under here, now we'll have a prepay tab, which looks very similar to the prepay underneath the client. So this gives us the ability to break down, if you have multiple projects going on, multiple different prepays, you can actually group those into different contracts. And if we go ahead and add that 5 hours here, we'll go add 5 hours here. We'll mark that today as date invoiced, and we'll do the same invoice number, 6, and save. Notice if we go look at one of the tickets down here, see the prepay balance is set to 0 at this point. That's because it's been used. If I refresh now, we should be back at a 5 hour. Well, it may not be live. Let's see. Where are we? Showing this status is live. Agreement subtype. Let's just, you can build these out based off of the types of work that we're doing. In this case, I'm just trying to see if we make it live, we should see that balance remaining available here go up to the number of hours that we added into that prepay tab, which I guess just hasn't happened yet. I don't know why. Maybe because it's a contract, and so it's a different setting. I think there's a different setting here. Here we see prepay balance is 5. If I refresh that, let's see what happens. 0. Yeah, I think there's another setting to indicate contract balances on the client. Let's see. Here it is. And let's see how that plays out now. There you go, 5 hours here on the bronze project 2334, right? So you can see this contract directly relates to the client, to the project that we're dealing with. This contract relates to this project, right? Which would be one of the reasons why we would want to name it that. That's what I wanted to show you. Now, the other thing is like we still have to let's say we want to actually have the line item display a line item on the invoice, not in the report. We actually want it to be a line item displaying the hours that were used. So one of the things that you could do is you can mark all the time as billable. You can invoice that time and then provide a credit on that invoice for the amount of time that's been billed, subtracting it from the prepay contract as you go each time. So we can go in and say, well, we're invoicing 2 hours on a project. And so assuming I create that invoice, I can come into here, edit prepay, add, and we're just going to subtract minus 2 hours that's been used as part of the prepay. And now our prepay balance goes down to 3. And so that way you'll actually invoice the time and recognize that revenue when it's being done. You'll invoice the time like normal. You'll provide a discount on the invoice for that time. And then you can subtract it from the prepay contract. So that way, when you're looking at the ticket or on the client's remaining balance, no matter what, it'll still show the correct remaining balance at that point. Again, I'm saying again, but I never really said it on this video. Everything I just showed you is not a recommendation on how to do things. It's not like a step-by-step instruction set of what to do. These are different ways or different things to consider how you would do things inside of Halo so that you can build what works for you best. One of my favorite things about Halo, I said it before, I'll say it again, is that there's always more than one way to do something. It's so flexible, it's so configurable that you can do almost anything with it. Literally almost anything with Halo. Whatever you can't do with it natively, you can absolutely bring in additional custom-built scripts and automations to make it work the way you want it to. So anyways, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you did watch, let me know what you thought. Put your comments below and have a great day.